points, 85 as its highest stat. Let's break this Pokemon down. 85 attack, that's its highest stat right there. Then 60s on the defenses. Really, when I try to make a tanky Pokemon, I'm looking. Welcome back, Wolfpack Brolis here, and this is how to use Bibarel. Now, Bibarel, very crazy, weird Pokemon, because when you look at its base stats, you don't really see much. 79 on the hit points, 85 as its highest stat. Let's break this Pokemon down. 85 attack, that's its highest stat right there. Then 60s on the defenses. Really, when I try to make a tanky Pokemon, I'm looking for like 80 hit points with 80s or more on the defense. So even fully investing this Pokemon as a tank, you don't get much out of. The attack and speed, it's a joke to make this Pokemon a sweeper. What are we going to do with Bibarel? Well, first we're going to look at its typing. Water, normal type, we have that ghost immunity, but then we have fighting, grass, and electric weaknesses, so the weaknesses do stack up. We do gain some decent resistances, steel, fire, water, and ice. So this Pokemon, it's kind of a balanced tank, but not really, and it doesn't really do too much. So let's just go straight to Pokemon Showdown, where we find out this Pokemon maybe more powerful than you expect because of its abilities. Its abilities do crazy things. You have simple ability. This Pokemon's stat changes have double effect, and that means that you can combo this with a lot of really crazy things, and it has the Moody ability. Very few Pokemon get this ability, and generally ones that do get it have low base damages and base stats and stuff, because it raises a random stat by 2 and lowers another one at the end of each turn. So you gain defense, you gain speed, you gain attack. Now you suddenly become a threatening Pokemon out of nowhere. Now, sure it is RNG, but you can still like kind of at least pair this with a couple things and get some strength out of it. Also, the Unaware ability. Unaware, still a very strong ability. They've tried to do things like Swords Dance. It's going to be really good against that. But the thing is, Bibarel doesn't have the base stats to make Unaware really work, so it is a strong ability, but we're going to be focusing more on Simple and Moody. And my idea is Simple with just some kind of Curse Amnesia setup. Now, I do spam Curse Amnesia a lot. That's because it does give Pokemon that normally don't have a fighting chance a really good chance. That, say you come in against a Pokemon using setup, or they really don't expect your strategy or anything, so you come in and you use Curse. Now, it's going to give you 50% more defense. However, with Bibarel, Simple ability is doubling your defense, so we're going to go that Curse, and now we're a 362 hit point Pokemon with 219, well, over 400 defense now, and that's going to make us fairly tanky. I like the idea of Chesto Berry with Rest, because you go in with the Curse, and then you get maybe another Curse or an Amnesia or something, and then you just go and rest it away. Chesto Berry wakes you up, so now you're at full health. You're awake. Since you're pretty slow, you might be one of the last Pokemon to go. Actually, you're definitely going to be last, because you're also dropping 2 speed, but you're a tank, so it doesn't matter. So you're going to wake up, you're going to be fresh, and then you can just go into more stats or something like that. And then Amnesia. Amnesia is going to go up by 4 times, so instead of gaining 2, you gain 4 with the Simple ability, thus tripling your special, which is why I was thinking, might as well just go with the Careful Nature, get that base special defense investment, put the rest in the hit points in defense, try to survive those hits, and then next thing you know, boom, tripling that special defense, getting over 500 special defense in 1 turn, and now it's just going to be really hard to retaliate damage onto you, and they pretty much have to be hitting you super. Fortunately, fighting grass and electric, they aren't incredibly common compared to other things that you see more like ground and rock and ice and things like that. So, while you will see them from time to time, it's not like you always have to be worried about one of these moves getting thrown at you, and then you just go for the damage. You know, you use Curse 3 times, now you have max attack. So that means that 206 attack is going to be going up to 800, over 800. So Waterfall, stab damage, going to be powerful. The flinch really doesn't matter, but then you just go for a sweep from there, and that's kind of the idea behind the Bibarel. After that, we can also go with the Moody ability. Moody is going to kind of be the same idea, except you play around it a little differently. I like Curse because it's going to keep that damage high, so it's going to be Chesto Resto, but this time we have Protect instead of Amnesia, and we're going to be relying off of special defense on that Moody ability. So pretty much the first turn, Protect, hope for the best. Maybe you'll get a defensive gain against something that they're doing. If not, you're always using Cursed. You're going to be gaining Moody while sleeping. And then you just kind of use your Protects on the turn you wake up. That way you can still at least stall people out. And you get a lot of effect out of this. So eventually, after a couple turns, you know, you might gain Evasion. You gain +2 Evasion. You gain +2 on the defenses. Your special defense. With the max hit point, max special defense investment, fairly decent. Like, you're going to be able to tank up 2 or 3 hits even with this, and then you Chesto Resto, and then hope for more special defense, and eventually you'll make it like 5 + 4 attack, and then you start using Waterfall, and then you destroy everything. Well, everything except for Water Absorb Pokemon, and that's really the only thing that this strategy has to worry about, or Water Absorb, but you're still looking at a lot of base damage, and if you get that one little in, with a Simple ability, you really just need 1 turn to run away with the battle, and from there, really the only thing that can stop you are crits. And then we can look at the same idea, but for Eviolite Bidoof. Bidoof can be super powerful because, I mean, let's look at the Eviolite stats. Sure, our hit points aren't much to write home about, but then with the Eviolite, we max out the hit points, we split our defenses, we go with a defensive nature because generally they're more physical Pokemon in the game. We get our Eviolite boost, we keep simple, and then we run this, except it's not going to have Chesto Berry, it's just going to have Eviolite, but the same idea applies. Hopefully you can get a couple of boosts off before you go into an early rest. Then you go for the damage. Now the thing is, Bidoof can't learn Waterfall and it's a pure normal typing, so we just give it Secret Power. Secret Power is going to get stabbed, be a decent amount of damage, but the cool thing about Secret Power is that it has a 30% chance to paralyze when you're doing link battles, so you might get that paralysis, could slow your opponent down a bit, and you're still throwing out some good damage, so that could be a really fun thing to do. And then the last Bibarel set, pretty trolly. The idea is using Double Team. Double Team with Simple becomes a Minimize effectively, so you're getting +2 evasion. And then you can do a lot of really silly things. You can go with Protect, that we have like a Toxic Stall with Protect, and then you can use Super Fang. So this can get walled out by Steel types, Poison types, Pokemon that aren't going to take a lot of damage from Super Fang. So it is like a generic Toxic Stall, but it can be really hilarious that you're gaining really fast evasion and then you just hide behind like a Toxic with Protect and Leftovers. And then you can also maybe incorporate this idea that maybe you just run without Amnesia. So let's go and put in Double Team here. Now the problem is we are losing our insane special boosting, which means we are going to have to go with like a Careful Nature. So we max out our special defense, and then we just kind of use Curse and Double Team, gain boosts, and eventually we're going to be untouchable while still doing crazy amounts of damage. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's how you use Bibarel and Bidoof. I hope you all have a nice day.
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 30.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Vrolas here, and this is how to use Leavanny. Now, I will lead off with Leavanny's typing because it is a very, very frail typing, and it will give us an idea of what we're trying to do with this Pokemon. So with the Grass and Bug typing, 4 times weakness to Flying, 4 times weakness to Fire, 2 times weakness to Ice, Bug, Rock, and Poison. A lot of things are going to want to murder us, so we are going to be careful of that. But at the same time, if we are playing with no hope of survival whatsoever, then we shouldn't worry ourselves too much about it. It just shows that there are a lot of weaknesses in this typing, so it is going to limit us in what we can do with Leavanny. We do have resistances as well, fighting ground, water, grass, and electric, but I don't think those really matter too much when you have 2 4 times weaknesses. Alright, now let's go and look at Leavanny's stats. See that the typing's pretty bad, which means there's only 2 stats I want you to look at with Leavanny. Attack and speed. That's all that Leavanny is to us. That the hit points, defenses, special attack, doesn't matter. Those stats are too low and the defensive typing is too frail. So offensively, we only have 103 attacks, so we barely break 103 on our offensive stat. That's going to be kind of difficult for being a sweeper. Same with 92 speed. We fall just shy, well actually we fall pretty shy of 100 speed, and even then, 100 to 110, that's not really super competitive for a sweeper. So we're going to be looking at Leavanny as a frail sweeper that doesn't do as much fast damagey things as other sweepers. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we're going to see that Leavanny is a Focus Sash setup Pokemon because of the way that stats break down. Also with that 92 speed, we're going to have to make sure we remove any of the opponent's faster Pokemon. So we either have to set up a Sticky Web or we just have to take out sweepers. If we don't do any of that, then we just might use our Focus Sash for revenge damage, and that's not that great. That means we're using our entire Focus Sash Pokemon to finish off and like knock out half of a Pokemon, and if they have faster Pokemon than us, then we're still in trouble. So the only good thing about 92 speed is that if we go speed investment, we get that Jolly in there. Now we're outspeeding 100 base speed Pokemon, and I think up to 105 base speed. So we're outspeeding up to 105 base speed on a neutral nature. So if this was like a Modest Manectric or any Pokemon with less speed in it that isn't running Jolly, Timid, Naive, or Hasty, you know, we're going to be able to outspeed those Pokemon, and that's just kind of all that we're looking for. After that, Swords Dance. Now here's where we actually start finding a circle of synergy in Leavanny. Swords Dance, that's going to boost our attack by 2, so we're doubling our attack on that first usage, which means that we're getting over 600 attack. That starts getting pretty competitive. So then since we're frail, we take damage, and then that procs our Focus Sash, we survive with 1 hit points. Then Swarm activates. Whenever we have less than 1/3 hit points, we do 50% more damage on our Bug type attacks, and then we get Stab off of X-Scissor, which is a Bug type. So we're just going to get a huge circle of damage boosting, and now we're finding neutral KOs on X-Scissor, which is just ridiculous. We need to make sure all that speed comes into play as well. With Tauntaun Pass, kind of an option to a degree. You do have to kind of risk it, that, you know, your Focus Sash is going to proc if you bring it on the wrong time and stuff, but overall that's going to be the damage. Leaf Blade for coverage, knock off, extra coverage. If you can't knock out the Pokemon with X-Scissor or Leaf Blade, at least you're going to do a ton of damage and remove their item before they go down. So if you can get it on the right setup, you can sweep through a team with this. just takes a bit of luck and stuff like that. Leavanny with Chlorophyll, kind of interesting as well, that if we kind of break down Chlorophyll, really good move for us, that without any speed investment, we're going to be at 112 speed at level 50, or we are going to have 220 speed at level 100, which means after Chlorophyll activates, without any speed investment, we're outspeeding a large majority of Pokemon, and then we still get to keep our Adamant Nature and get a lot of damage from there. So if you have Sun in singles, then we don't need Protect, we just run Knockoff and stuff, but Sun is easier. Any kind of field conditions, they're easier to do in doubles, which is why we just need Protect. We Protect, we Mega Evolve our Charizard Y, the Pokemon set up Sunny Day for us, and then we're good to go. After that, we use Swords Dance, we just hope that they don't hit us twice. They know if Focus Sash procs, it's fine, we get our Swords Dance boosting, and then we just go for the damage. Now, unfortunately, Leavanny doesn't get Fire Punch or anything like that. If it did, it would help with the fire kind of thing, but we don't have anything to make use of the Sunny Day, so Swords Dance is going to be what we carry. We're still going to set up Swords Dance, try to outspeed with Chlorophyll. I mean, we might be able to find a sleep in this situation, but Pokemon with Wide Guard that can help us out from priority after our Focus Sash gets proc, and then we just kind of hope for KOs, but we are going to be losing out that damage from the Swarm ability, so that is something to consider, and then we can just kind of put in the other moves here, Protect, whatever. But whenever we have Chlorophyll as ability, we have to mention Sun because it can become a Sun Sweeper like many other Chlorophyll Pokemon, so there's some synergy they can build up there, and then Leavanny also gets Endure. So I know I have talked about this combo to death, but if someone hasn't seen any of the other videos or they don't really understand which Endure Pokemon's going to work for them, Leavanny, it works out with it. That all we have to do is put speed investments, that's going to give us 283, which is really nice because Salak Berry's going to proc, that's going to push us well over 420 speed, so we're going to be outspeeding a very large amount of Pokemon, that's over 145 base speed, so now we're just going to kind of outspeed whatever we want, and that can turn into something serious. That this set goes one-on-one with Mewtwo and then beats it because of that, because all you have to do is use Endure, you take that hit, Salak Berry procs, and now you have more speed and damage than Mewtwo, and that's going to work out pretty well. So this is pretty much not playing as much into the Swords Dance, we're still getting Swarm boosting, you're still getting excessive damage, and you're just looking for those fast KOs. That's going to work really well with something like Stealth Rock, something like Spikes. Late game, that if your opponent is desperately clutching onto sweeper Pokemon that are at like 75% health or maybe a little lower just from residual damage throughout the game, Leavanny can come in and clean up like this. Isn't going to be absurd amounts of damage, but it is going to be enough to find finishing blows on a lot of Pokemon with that Swarm X Scissor because we're enduring into that 1 hit points, Knockoff coverage, Leaf Blade coverage, and that's kind of it with Leavanny. That when we consider other moves, there's not really too much else that it gets access to that's really going to benefit us. That, you know, Knockoff is such a good utility move, and then we run the 2 stab in our setup, and that's pretty basic. If you want to add on to it, get Shadow Claw and things like that. It's not really too much else as you can see right here. Now, Leavanny also gets access to Baton Pass, so that could be maybe something that you want to do. The idea here is that you can cut your losses offensively, and you can become a pseudo Baton Pass setup Pokemon that isn't speed boost. Your opponent might not expect it. And when someone sees a Scolipede, hey, that's coming up next, neat. A Shedinja, anything that's going to speed boost Baton Pass, they know it's coming, but with this, you set up Swords Dance, you try to find a way of enduring a hit. That might mean just a little bit of hit point investment, or against a Pokemon that's going for setup. Now, if you lead with this Leavanny, the opponent might not know what to do, and they might not even be able to KO you. So you go for Swords Dance into Endure, that's going to activate your Salak Berry, and then you still have damage options. You can go for the X Scissor Sweep to finish off your opponent, or you just go for Baton Pass. You outspeed them, you go Baton Pass. Now the Pokemon coming in is going to have +2 on its attack, and +1 on speed from the Salak Berry. So this can be something interesting you can kind of mix up with, and that can be really nice. Also, Leavanny, it has a lot of obvious weaknesses. If you have Pokemon that resist that, you pretty much get a free Baton Pass, and then you can go for a sweep from there. So that's going to be Leavanny. Surprisingly powerful. We've seen some sweeps on Fan Fridays before, which is really neat. That it actually prompted me to do a guide of this over a year ago, but it wasn't under how to use format, so we just got Leavanny right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's how you use it. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Brillis here, and this is how to use Mega Gardevoir. So Mega Gardevoir, of course, the Mega Evolution of Gardevoir is going to have some better stats, and it works out pretty well. Then we go from 80 base speed to 100, and we also get a huge boost in special attack and a little boost in special defense. So that special attack is going to be monstrously useful, and that speed isn't going to put us in like the craziest kind of speed tier, but it is going to give us more outspeeds and be on a bit more competitive level at that 100. Also, the little special defense is really nice. Against typing, it is a Psychic Fairy type, so it keeps the same typing as a Gardevoir, and it's still a good typing. Now we get really good stab, that we don't have too many weaknesses, and we just have a fair amount of resistances while also being immune to Dragon. So it really works out. Mostly it's just going to be that Fairy typing, because when we hop into Pokemon Showdown, we see that its ability is Pixelate. Pixelate is a godly ability. Any of the abilities that change the typing are really strong, because 30% more damage, and it becomes a Fairy type. So if we take a move like Hyper Voice, this gets a 30% boost to power, so it goes up to 117 base power, and it still gets stab. So now, you know, it gets that Fairy typing, Gardevoir's a Fairy, so then the stab puts it up to over 170 base power. That's going to be a little bit of damage, and by a little bit of damage, I mean a lot, because Gardevoir also has 165 on that special attack. So Modest is going to put you over 470 at level 100. That's a lot of damage. Now also, we can kind of look at it for the speed aspect. If you go Timid, you can get a good amount of damage as well, while still having those outspeeds. Just depends on how you want to support it. Now, if we go back to Hyper Voice, we can look at Gardevoir. Mega Gardevoir is going to be more of a doubles Pokemon than Gardevoir. That with Hyper Voice hitting both bows, that Hyper Voice is going to have a huge amount of power, good amount of speed, and you have that high damage from your special attack. So that's pretty much why you want to bring it in doubles, which means you can support it with Tailwind, or you can try to have like Icy Wind on the other side of with your other Pokemon, and that way you're just going to try to keep yourself in as good a speed as possible, and it can work out pretty well. Also, if we kind of keep looking down, you still have Destiny Bond for options. You can go with Protect, and you also have Side Shock. So pretty much you're just going to be looking for like that Hyper Voice open, and then the Destiny Bond to get your opponent off guard, and it's going to work out really well. You can also kind of look at it from a more offensive standpoint, but with speed and setting up. That you can either use Psych Up Stored Power, or you can just bring your own Calm Mind, which lets you carry Will-O-Wisp as well. If you have Psych Up, it's just good if you have another ally Pokemon using Calm Mind, Stockpile, any kind of boosting. You Psych that up, you gain the defenses, and then Stored Power doesn't even matter if you're investing into your special attack or not. You're gonna have so much damage off that Stored Power. It doesn't matter. Hyper Voice is still gonna hit hard, and again, since it's doubles, Protect is pretty good for the mind games. Or you can also bring anything else, where like Charge Beam could really help you Psych Up some stats. You go into Charge Beam, so that way you're still putting out damage while gaining extra stats on top of that.
Or again, we just have Calm Mind. Now, if you go with Calm Mind, that you can pretty much hit point investment, 1 point into defense, and then the rest into your speed. Gonna have that good outspeed, and then you can just go Will-O-Wisp, get tanky on the defensive side, high amount of special defense from using your own Calm Mind, and then Hyper Voice. Even at 1 Hyper Voice, you're gonna have more damage than Modest. So going with this little bit more speed, a little bit more hit point investment, it can pay off after just 1 turn, and then it'll be very strong from there. So this is kind of like the way that we're looking at Gardevoir from just a double standpoint. That you can, with this high special defense and low defense, you bring a Reflect Pokemon and really put a lot of support into your Gardevoir to make it very strong. That I was also thinking that, with the having the ability Telepathy before you Mega Evolve can be very strong as well. That you have Gardevoir with Telepathy, throw out a Hyper Voice, and then you have a Pokemon like Lickilicky. It just Scarf Explosion. You can bring it with Cloud9. That way you clear weather. You go for that